Estamos grabando. Esta es la clase del día 3 de junio del grupo 2 y vamos a hacer la revisión de un pequeño listado de cláusulas y análisis sintáctico. Entonces, comenzamos con el número 5. Les pido por favor que si alguien tiene alguna duda que me detenga, hable, escriba o nos avise de inmediato, ¿vale? La clase termina, tenemos alrededor de 20 minutos más o menos para poder hacer algo. Lo que no alcancemos hoy día lo continuamos mañana. Okay, so the great monkey quickly chased the brown weasel around the mulberry bush. So the very first stuff I'm going to do is separating or looking for the verbs. And this is the verb, sorry. Here's the verb. And the question is whether quickly is inside of the verb phrase or not. So what I'm going to do is moving quickly and see whether it changes the meaning of the entire clause, right? So I'm going to take quickly, I'm going to put it at the very beginning. Quickly, the gray monkey chased the brown weasel around the mulberry bush. I'm going to put it at the very end. The gray monkey quickly chased the brown weasel around the mulberry bush. The gray monkey chased the brown weasel around the mulberry bush quickly. No, it doesn't work that way. I think it's inside. With this idea, I want to tell you that verb phrases, right, you can have adverb pre-modifiers inside of a verb phrase, right? You can have that. So the question is, if you have that adverb is inside or not. So the way in which you can prove it is by taking the adverb and moving it and placing it at the very beginning of the sentence or at the very end of the sentence. If you can do that and not changing the meaning, then it's outside. If you do that and then you change the meaning, then it's inside, okay? I believe it's inside. I'm going to provide the analysis now. So chase is the only verb, therefore the verb head, and quickly is the adverb pre-modifier. Therefore, this is the verb phrase. Right? Okay. Now I'm going to ask who, therefore I'm going to look for the subject. Again, the verb phrase is really important because it is around the verb head, which we're going to create the entire sentence. So once I've found the verb phrase, I can ask questions to the verb phrase, and then because of that, I will find the other elements, the other clause elements. Right? So I have chased. So who chased the brown weasel? The gray monkey. So the gray monkey is the subject, therefore the doer of the action. As it is the doer of the action, then is an entity. And we know that entities are represented by nouns. Therefore, the gray monkey must be a noun or should be a noun. So I'm going to prove it by changing that into a pronoun. It chased. Yeah, it works. So it's a noun phrase. I already know that. I'm going to look for the noun head. The only noun is monkey, therefore this is the noun head. Gray is an adjective, pre-modifier, quite easy. D is a determiner pre-modifier. Therefore, this is the noun phrase. Okay, now I'm going to take the verb phrase. I'm going to ask who receives the action. Therefore, I'm going to ask who was chased, right? The brown weasel, right? So the brown weasel, weasel is a noun, this is the head. How's that weasel? Brown. Therefore, this is the adjective pre-modifier. And we already know that the is a determiner pre-modifier, right? As the head is a noun, this is a noun phrase. Now I'm going to take the verb phrase all over again. And the only thing missing is around the mulberry bush. I'm going to read it again. The gray monkey quickly chased the brown weasel around the mulberry bush. So the mulberry bush is a place, so it answers the question of where, right? So that's another element. This is a prepositional phrase because around is a preposition following the formula, the preposition head followed by the noun phrase complement. This is the noun phrase complement. Bush would be the noun head And then mulberry is another noun, but in this case, pre-modifier. And in front of that, you have the determiner D. And that's it. ¿Algún problema con esta oración?
Profe, ¿por qué no podemos como encerrar todo lo que queda desde The Brown Whistle hasta Batch?
Porque en el slide de verb phrase, como en la segunda o tercera página, there's a thing called valency pattern. I'm gonna write that thing in green. There's a concept called valency pattern. That is to say, how we write English sentences. I mean, to be more precise, English clauses. And there are patterns. And so on and so forth. Right? Right. Now, on the one hand, I haven't told you anything about this because it is a matter of the clause and not the phrase. That's my first reason. The second reason is this is a matter of a further course, not this course, on the second hand. But I think it is a very good tool in order to find phrases. Why? Well, because every single of one of those elements inside of a valency pattern is a phrase, right? What are the elements? The idea of subject, verbal, object, adverbial, and finally complement. Okay. I've told you that what you must find at the very beginning is the verb phrase. Why? Because it is the verbal. And is around that phrase that you will build the entire clause, right? So once you find the verbal, that is to say the verb phrase, you can immediately find the subject, that is to say a noun phrase. A subject is a noun phrase. Is the doer of the action. It is placed before the verb phrase. So I'm going to say that the form of this phrase is a verb phrase and its function is verbal. In front of that, you have a noun phrase and it's the doer of the action. Its function is the subject. Then you must ask yourself who receives the action of the verb, that is to say, who's being chased? The brown whistle. Therefore, the brown whistle is the object of the action. Therefore, an object. Objects are noun phrases, which can be found after the verb phrase. And finally, around the mulberry bush answers the question of, beg your pardon, this is a noun phrase. Around the mulberry bush answers the question of where, right? Therefore, it's telling you a place. Therefore, it's an adverbial of place, which are usually made by prepositional phrases, adverb phrases, or even noun phrases. All over again. And in order to answer your question, why can't we assume that there's just one unit which starts with the determiner premodifier D, and it ends at the very end of this clause with the noun head bush? You can't do that because inside of what you think is just one unit, you have two, and you can find them by asking questions to the verb phrase, right? Pregunto, claro, preciso y directo. ¿Les queda claro cómo encontrar frases dentro de una cláusula?
Sí.
Sí, ya, perfecto. ¿Les queda claro cuáles son las preguntas que deben hacer para encontrar las frases dentro de una cláusula?
Esas preguntas dependerían de la cláusula, del tipo de cómo esté construida, por así decirlo.
50%, sí y no. Sí dependerán porque todo lo que esté después de la verb phrase puede variar. Los patrones que se encuentran después de la verb phrase pueden variar. No, no dependerán porque siempre habrá sujeto y verb phrase. Siempre habrá noun phrase o algo muy similar y verb phrase. Eso sí que no va a cambiar.
Vale, profe.
¿Sí? Eso. Veámoslo con la que sigue. Even her best friend wouldn't tell her. So again, all over again, this is a clause, therefore there are phrases, and the very first stuff I'm going to do is looking for the verb phrase. I'm going to read it. Even her best friend wouldn't tell her. Therefore, the only verbs I can see are wouldn't tell. Therefore, this is my verb phrase. The most important and relevant phrase inside of every single clause. The last verb is always the verb head, always the verb head. And at the very beginning, or in front of that, we have an auxiliary verb, pre-modifier, right? This is a verb phrase. That's the form, and I'm going to add extra information saying this is the verbal part of this clause, okay? Now, always before the verb phrase, like 99.8% of the time, you will find the subject, that is to say, the doer of the action. So I'm going to ask the following. Who wouldn't tell her? Even her best friend, right? So this is just one single unit. Inside of this unit, I have 1, 2, 3, 4 words. I know that friend is a noun. I know that best is an adjective. I know that here is a determiner. But what's even? ¿Buscaron que era even en un diccionario?
Un adverb, ¿no?
Veamos. Turururum, turururum, turururum. Estaba viendo el micrófono, perdón. Cambridge Online Dictionary. Siempre confiamos en él. Estamos trabajando para usted. Even, adverbio. Even, adjetivo. Even, verbo, adjetivo, adverbio, verbo, adjetivo. ¿Ok? Ok. La pregunta es, even in this specific context is a verb or not? No, it isn't a verb, right? Why not? Well, because it doesn't entail any action, right? Then, can even be an adjective? No, it can't be an adjective. Why not? Well, because inside of a noun phrase you have an order, and the order is the following. Noun phrases are written with the following order. The very first element you're going to have are determiners. And then you can have adjectives, adjective phrases, nouns, noun phrases. And then you can have the head, right? Right. So what I'm saying is this. You will have pre-modifiers, heads. That's what you have. But there's an order, okay? Okay. So as here is a determiner, even cannot be an adjective. ¿Queda claro? Le sirve que lo escriba, le sirve que me lo diga. Si no me dice nada, yo asumo que sí. Okay, therefore friend is a noun, best is an adjective, and then you have here, which is a determiner, pre-modifier. I would say that even is an adverb premodifier. Voy a dar un comentario de eso en 3 minutos más. Then I'm going to ask, okay, so this is a noun phrase. I'm going to add this extra information that this is the subject, the verb, the action. All what's in green is extra, okay? Then I have here, so I'm going to ask to the very same verb phrase, who receives the action? Therefore, who would even her best friend, who wouldn't even her best friend tell? Here, something like that, right? So here is the receiver of the action. Here, then, is a pronoun, head, and then, therefore, this is a noun phrase, and I'm going to add this extra information. It is the object. Okay, couple of things about here. Here is a pronoun, but not any pronoun. It is what we call object pronoun. Why object pronoun? Well, because those are pronouns which are placed which are located in the place of an object, which are inserted in the space of an object, right? Right after the verb. That's why they change the way in which they are written. Okay? Therefore, I have to say a couple of things about the very first noun phrase. I have 3 minutes. Okay. Even her best friend. This is an analysis I will accept for the coming test, okay? But I must give you the real analysis. The real analysis is a little bit different. I'm going to use another document, just, okay, even her best friend. Even her best friend. Okay, in dual terms, what you have to do there is, okay, friend is still the noun head, best is still the adjective premodifier, but here you have something different. This is a phrase, and it's called the determiner phrase, and this determiner phrase is premodifying best friend, right? Then it is created by here, which is a central determiner, and even is an adverb premodifier. Me quedan 2 minutos. Lo que están viendo en la pizarra entonces, chiquillos, para hacer el cierre de, por lo menos lo de hoy día, mañana hacemos todo el resto, es que las noun phrases son mucho más complicadas, mucho más complejas de lo que nosotros hemos visto. No he querido entregar toda la información de ellas porque con esta es la que comenzamos el curso que viene. Por ahora solo me interesa que reconozca un par de cosas dentro de una cláusula. Me interesa, punto 1, ser capaces de reconocer frases y distinguir una de otra. Punto 2, que reconozca la relación existente entre heads y modifiers, o heads y auxiliary verbs, verb heads y auxiliary verbs. ¿Sí? 3, que sea capaz de realizar un análisis siguiendo la idea del tree diagram, ¿no? Bajando niveles. Todo esto, cosas extras, cosas que ocurran después, que luego las vamos a ver y las vamos a explicar, van a aparecer en los análisis. No en la prueba, ¿sí? Pero sí en los análisis. Por lo tanto, mientras hagamos análisis, siempre voy a estar entregando información extra, ¿sí? Les recuerdo entonces con esta idea que si usted no entiende algo o tiene diferencias de opinión, porque yo puedo estar muy equivocado también, que por favor lo diga, ¿sí? Si usted no dice nada, yo asumo que todo está bien y avanzo, ¿ya? Eso, nos queda 1 minuto. ¿Alguna duda antes de cerrar hoy día?
Profe,
Dígame.
best friend no puede ser junto, como una sola palabra.
Un compañero la buscó del otro grupo y me dijo que estaba en revisión en Cambridge. Está en beta, todavía no se sabe. ¿Sí? Así que yo lo dejaría como 2 palabras todavía.
Ya.
¿Sí? Por si acaso. Eso. ¿Más dudas? Estamos entonces. Ya, chiquillos, mañana nos juntamos a las 4:15 y revisamos todo lo que queda. Le pido por favor que si no las alcanzó hoy día, que las tenga listas para mañana. ¿Ya? Y eso. Y dudas de lo que sea para la prueba, me las hace mañana. Que todos tengan una linda tarde. Cuídense mucho. Subo el video en un rato más. Chao,
Chao,
chao.
profe, que esté bien.